How easy it would be to fall for you, but that of course is something I won't do.
Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well today. So Valentine's Day is approaching very quickly and I have been in such a crafty Valentine's mood for the past couple of weeks. So I've made 4 different projects to show you today. Some of them are decor, some of them are things that would make great gifts, or things for yourself. So I hope you enjoy watching these. I have 1 sewing project and then 3 more like crafty projects. So let me show you what the first one is. So the first one is definitely one of my favorites. We are going to be making this tote bag that is heavily inspired by the one that was at Barnes & Noble that went kind of viral this Valentine's season, and I love that it looks like a giant Valentine. It has the embroidery on the front that says book lover, and you can make it say whatever you want, very customizable. So let me show you how to make this. To make this tote bag, you only need a few materials: some white embroidery floss. I'm using pearl cotton from DMC, and then some lace. I got mine from Joann's, and then 1 yard of red fabric that is a little bit stiff and has some weight to it. This is canvas I got from Joann's. So I'm starting out with my fabric folded in half and then folded in half the opposite way so that I can cut out 2 hearts at the same time. I am just freehanding my hearts the same way you would cut them out of paper, and it's really simple to do. You can make them whatever size you want, and then once you've cut out the 2 hearts for the outside of the bag, go ahead and cut 2 more out for the lining. And then we need some handles for our tote bag, so I'm cutting out 2 strips of fabric. These measure 2.5 by 26 inches. So to make the tote bag, I'm going to start by decorating the front, and I'm going to start this process out by pinning my lace in place. So I'm just going really slowly around the outside of the bag and adjusting the lace to fit. This will fit a little bit better once we iron it in place later on, but you just want to go nice and slowly and match the lace to those curved edges. Now when I get to the center of the heart, I'm just going to fold the lace over on itself so that it fits around, and then when I come to the end, I can just trim it and make sure that it overlaps here at the point. And at this stage, I decided to go ahead and add the embroidery just so I could make sure I liked the placement of everything. So referencing the inspiration image, I am just using a pencil to freehand in the letters, and I'm making mine say book lover. You can make it say whatever you want here. And then I'm ready to start stitching. So I am using a chain stitch to follow the shape of the letters, and a chain stitch is really great for lettering. I will link to a detailed tutorial for it down below, but the basic idea is bring the needle up through the fabric and then put it back through right next to that, pull the needle up about a stitch length away and wrap the thread around to create this little chain shape. And it's a really good stitch for lettering. I love the way it looks. It almost looks like it's crocheted. So I'm just going to stitch around all of my letters, and you could use any stitch that you want here, but the chain stitch is what I really like for this more chunky look. And here is a look at how the embroidery turned out. I think it looks so darling. I love it. And now I'm ready to sew the lace in place. So I'm going to stitch all the way around this solid edge of the lace. And then wherever I've connected it at the points of the heart, I'm going to use zigzag stitches just to make sure that that stays nice and flat and secure. And now over at the iron, I can press the lace flat. Be very careful if you're using a synthetic lace. Make sure that your iron is on the correct setting. We do not want any melted, sad lace here. And now moving on to the handles, I'm going to fold these in half and press this flat. And then I'll fold those long raw edges up 1/4 of an inch towards the inside so that this is all nice and clean on the outside. And to secure this in place and give it a nice finished look, I'm going to top stitch across both sides of the handle, and I'll repeat for the second one as well. Now I can go ahead and start adding the handles to the bag. So I'm going to start by pinning this in place. Place it where you want and then just flip it over so that the right sides are together, and then pin this in place. And then when you pull up on the handle, you should see that it looks correct. I'm repeating the same process for the back of the bag as well, and then just basting these in place with a wide stitch so that it's a little bit easier to work with. And now I'm ready to sew the front and back together. So I'm going to place these together with the right sides together and pin this in place, deciding where I want the opening to start and end. And then I can just take this over to the sewing machine and stitch it down. I'm using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance here. I'll go ahead and repeat the same process, sewing the two lining pieces together, and then I'm ready to add the bag to the lining. So I'm going to start by placing the bag and the lining together with the right sides together, and the way I find this easiest to do is to place the outside of the bag inside the lining, making sure that those lining seams are facing out towards you. And then I can match up the top edge, making sure that the handles are tucked towards the inside and pin all the way around the top. I'll go ahead and sew this together through all layers, making sure that none of the bag handles are twisted and leaving a gap on one side so that I can turn this right side out. Make it a little bit bigger gap than I'm showing here because I did end up having to make mine a little bit wider once I got through with it. Now to make this a little easier to turn right side out, I'm just going to cut into the seam allowance around those curves and just clip those curves so that they turn a little bit more cleanly. And then I can go ahead and turn the bag right side out, pulling the outside through that little gap that we left in the stitching. And then I can push the lining towards the inside of the bag, and we are almost done. All that's left to do is to close up that little gap that we left. This should fold together pretty seamlessly just because of the seam allowance of the top of the bag. So I'm going to pin that in place, and then because I don't really want any top stitching along the top of the bag, I'm just going to sew this down by hand using some invisible stitches and stitching back and forth between the layers. Then I'll just give the bag a final press and then it's done. I love the way it turned out. I think it is so cute. This would make a wonderful gift for your friends, for a family member, or something for yourself. I am planning to keep mine. I think it is so darling and I can't wait to use it. Next up, I have an air dry clay project for you guys, and these are some super fun conversation heart coasters. I think they turned out so adorably, so let me show you how to make them. So to make these coasters, I'm using the Crayola air dry clay, and I was able to get 5 out of this package and I still had some left over. I also have a toothpick to carve my letters, and then for my template, I'm using this little heart-shaped saucer. You could print out a heart or draw one. I still don't have a rolling pin for clay, y'all, so I'm using a coffee mug. And then I just rolled this out to about 1/4 of an inch thick, and I am cutting around my heart-shaped saucer to get a heart shape. I'm going to use some water in my fingers to smooth this out and really refine the shape to make sure I'm happy with it and just make sure that it looks as smooth as possible. And then using my toothpick, I'm going to carve the letters of the little sayings into each coaster. This one is XOXO. And what I found to work best was to carve the letters and clean the toothpick off each time I ran it through the clay. And then to smooth over it again and come back and remove any excess clay. This seemed to make the cleanest little indentations in the clay. If you know a better way to do it that way. Officially, you are not supposed to put air dry clay in the oven, but I saw some people on TikTok say that if you put it into a cold oven and then set it to 200 degrees, allow it to bake for 20 minutes and then turn it back off and let it completely cool down in the oven, that you can. And I will tell you that I did that and it worked well for me to help these dry a little bit more quickly. So don't necessarily do it because they don't officially recommend it, but it worked well for me. So I'm just going to sand all of my coasters down and make them nice and smooth. And now we're ready for the fun part, which is the paint. And I picked out all these cute pastel colors, and these are just painted in acrylic paint. So I'm covering them all in the pastel colors. And then I'm going to come back in with a little detail brush and some fuchsia paint and just fill in the letters so that they pop out a little bit more. I did decide to glaze mine with a little bit of Mod Podge so they get a little bit glossy. And then on the back, I added a little cutout of felt just because I had some scrap felt laying around. You definitely wouldn't have to do this. And then once they dried, they were all done. And I think they turned out so cute. I think they look so classically Valentine's Day and very nostalgic. And I'm excited to use them for all my teas and coffees during February. Next, I have another decor project, and this is the cutest little garland or banner. I am putting this on my mantle, and I think it's so adorable. It's these felt letters that have the little hearts on them and then velvet ribbon bows. Super simple to make, so let me show you how. Felt garlands are always so fun to make, and for this one I'm using some cream and pink felt, and then I also have this rose colored velvet ribbon. I got all of my materials from Michael's. I'm going to start by cutting out my little envelope shape. So you just want to make this a rectangle with a pointed top so that you can fold this into an envelope, and I'm going to cut out 6 of these. And then from the pink felt, I'm just going to cut out 6 little hearts that we can use to decorate the envelopes. Now I'm going to fold my envelope together and just put a pin in this so that it stays together easily while I'm stitching it. And to stitch this together, I decided to use 2 strands of embroidery floss in a matching pink color. You could use embroidery floss or thread. I think the embroidery floss just gives it a cute little pop of color on the outside. So I'm just going to stitch all the way around the edges so that it both looks a little bit more like an envelope and it also is very secure. And now I'm just going to come in with my little hearts and glue these in place. I decided to use glue here just because I didn't really want stitching showing on the outside of the hearts, but you could definitely stitch them on if you prefer. And then with my velvet ribbon, I'm just going to tie some bows. I am making 8 bows so that I can have 2 bows on the end and then 1 in between each of the little envelopes. I used some of the ribbon to cut out these 2 tail pieces that will be the end of the garland, and be very careful if you do this, but using a lighter, I'm just singeing the edges of the ribbon to melt it so that it doesn't fray. And now I am ready to assemble everything together. So I'm going to start with one of the bows and the ribbon tail, and I'm just going to sew the ribbon tail to the back of the bow so that everything is very secure. I'm using embroidery floss again here just because it's a little bit stronger than thread, and I feel like it worked very well. now I can line up my first envelope with that bow, and I'm going to come in with my needle and thread and bring it up through the back of the envelope at that top corner. Then I'll put the thread through the side of the bow and then back up through the envelope. I'll do this 2 times, and I found that this secured it really nicely using the embroidery floss. If I were using regular thread, I might stitch through a few more times just because it's not quite as strong. And then I'm just going to knot it off securely on the back and repeat for all of the bows and envelopes until I have the completed garland. And once I get to the end, I will add the second tail of ribbon so that this can hang up from my mantle. And that's all there is to making this little garland. I think it would be such cute party decor, or if you just like to decorate for Valentine's Day, it is so sweet. And then last up, I have a very fun little gift idea. This is what I'm going to be doing for my sisters for Valentine's Day this year. So if you're watching this, sisters, I'm sorry that you're seeing this already. This has an adorable little flower arrangement on one side, and then on the other, you can put whoever you're giving it to's favorite coffee. I have my morning coffee in here because it's a week before Valentine's Day while I'm filming this. And then a sweet little note on the front. So let me show you how to put this together. So to make this sweet little gift, all you're going to need are these cardboard drink holders. I found these on Amazon, and I will link to the specific ones down below. It was overnight shipping, so definitely something you can do at the last minute. And then grab some floral foam. Now, if I were doing this again, and when I do this again next week, I will put some plastic underneath the floral foam so it doesn't soak into the drink carrier. Just keep that in mind. But I'm going to soak my floral foam in water and then dry off any excess and add it to the drink carrier. Now I can just arrange my flowers. These are from Trader Joe's, and I have ranunculus and chamomile, which are 2 of my favorites. And I'm going to start with the ranunculus and place them into the foam, and then fill in with the chamomile all around, trying my best to disguise that foam so you don't see it from the arrangement. And then just grab your recipient's favorite coffee or tea. You can either buy it or make it. I've made mine here, and I'm going to add it to the drink carrier. I also have these cute little cards that Rifle Paper Company very kindly sent over. I'm very excited to give these out for Valentine's Day. And I'm going to tape the card to the front of the drink carrier. And then for a final finishing touch, I'm just going to use some blue silk ribbon and tie a cute bow at the top to make it a little bit more festive. And that's all there is to this little gift. I think this would just be so much fun to receive. Imagine this showing up on your doorstep or at your office. I think it would make my day. So definitely a fun one to put together, and I'm very excited to give these out. Wanted to come say hi here at the end of the video, and that is it for all of these projects. I hope you enjoyed watching them. If you make any of them, please tag me on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you're posting it, and I will have all of the materials listed in the description box and also over on my LTK. Wow, you want to get down, don't you? Thank you so much for being here. If you're new to my channel and haven't yet subscribed, I post a lot of sewing and crafty content, also thrifting content, and sometimes you'll see Coconut make an appearance. So I'd love to have you along for my future videos, and you can do that by clicking the button down below. I hope you all have such a fun Valentine's Day and enjoy some of these craft projects, and I'll talk to you in a new video very soon. Bye. Bye-bye, friends. Bye, friends. Bye, friends.